Hello everyone, I'm Nick of Next Step Nick, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Die Young. So, what we're going to do today is chat a little bit about that, go through a bit of the footage you can see here now, and just talk about my experiences with the game. Now, please bear with me if you notice there's a couple of jumps and a couple of little skips. That's actually not on my end. What it actually is the game does get a little bit frame ratey at times. May have been partially the recording kind of setup as well. So fair play if it is, you know, that's totally on me. But I have had a bit of a test, did do a bit of a benchmark, and yeah, I was having some really weird issues with this at first. They do clear themselves up, but I've played this on another setup as well, just to test. And for some reason, the game does get a little bit jumpy when you start to do things, especially the climbing, and you probably will see that later. Yeah, gameplay wise, it's well, it's kind of what you'd expect, really. Big open world. There is a bit of a plot there, but emphasis on bit of a plot, really. There's not a great deal going on. It's very, if you've played Far Cry 3, you've kind of played this, to be honest. Plot wise, that is, anyway, to an extent. You're basically part of a group of tourists, like partying kids, basically partying teens or adults. Here I am going toe to toe with a dog and realising very quickly that this stick is not going to cut it. I do run when my stick breaks and I realise I can't do anything. Yeah, that was that. Didn't go well there, didn't go well, and this is not a good escape either. Yeah, I didn't do well at this point, not exactly showing any professional skill. But anyway, as I was saying, the game, if you've played Far Cry 3, it's very similar to that in regard to those plot points. You're part of a team of tourists, there's this whole thing about how they take drugs and they live on the edge. There's actually a sequence at the start where the character we play as, the female character here, she's shown as like being in a race car, climbing a cliff. There's a taking drugs scene in what looks like a nightclub. There's this whole thing. And then all of a sudden, we're in a dinghy with someone who looks a bit like Jared Leto, to be honest, and then a couple of seconds later we're in a well. We wake up in a well and we've been captured. They don't tell us how we've got there. It literally just goes from A to B, really. We were in a dinghy, then we're in a well. Such is life. This here, though, I've only put this in just to highlight a bit of a problem that I do have with the game, which is with every open world game, I always worry that a massive world is great if there's stuff in it. So like this drain looked interesting to me. I can't interact with that. There's no interaction at all with that. I can't do anything. This is a little bit later on when I've sort of made myself a knife and we're having a bit of an explore. Now, the thing with the game is, though, it's a shame because of the fact that when there are interactable environments, there's a few bits and pieces to do. So, for example, because they're few and far between, you can see them in the horizon. The game world does look really nice. That is one of the saving graces, really. But the problem is that when you do get to these environments, it tends to just be parkour. The studio in question made a previous game that was all parkour central as well, and this is the same. And I always have a problem with that because it turns out that rather than being unique, interesting environments that we can explore, it's just a load of boxes in a certain setup within a frame, if you know what I mean. It's a stock house. I'd imagine it's from, you know, I might be wrong, but I doubt it's a made asset. I would imagine it's a bought asset with items scattered around. Here I am flailing around with some rats. I think that bites me. Yeah, not doing well at the moment. Struggled with the dog, settle in for the rats. But the problem is that when you do get into these environments, I mean, this house here that we're looking at, it's pretty much bare bones, and you'll see this same structure within the video again later on. But it's the same kind of structure, maybe slightly different on the outside, but the inside is always the same. We've always got this kind of couple of boxes, bits and pieces. All the ledges we can climb are either covered in moss or they have white on them to show that, you know, they're a climbable surface. That kind of thing, which is great in theory. But in practice, it means that you're kind of limited. You know, you only go for, you don't bother looking at the rest. You go from A to B. I know there's no point looking at the building. I know there's no point walking around it. I'm just looking for a surface with white on it. I saw earlier there were some boxes. I saw that ramp. Straight away I knew, okay, we're parkouring this. You'll see now it does get a bit frame ratey when it comes to this as well, I think. When I was playing it, it did. It might be better in the recording. But I don't know why that is. It just had a few issues. But like now we're upstairs, for example. There's no real, you know, it's the same floor, it's a couple of rats, but for the most part it's just empty. I mean, there's a little bit more to look at in the next part of the building, but it's just A to B jumping around. And the issue I've got really with parkour, especially in first person games, I know people will say, oh, Mirror's Edge did it, that kind of thing, oh, there's a good job of it in stuff like Titanfall, and that's fair enough, it can be handled well, but the issue is that when it's not done perfectly, it really throws you out of the experience. So for example, your feet, I think I look down at this point, I'm not sure if I do, I might do later, but there's a point where I look down at my feet and you can see that the neck of the character is kind of craned out, so it makes it so difficult to judge those jumps. But yeah, this room's got a few more bits and pieces in, but again, it's just, you know, there's not really any character here, is there, per se, and that's the problem really. We'll see this furniture again, we'll see that same bed with the same covers again later on. The game has got like a little bit of a mechanic in there for crafting, because, you know, of course it does. You've got your notes and things like that, so there's a note here that we've found that's telling us a little bit more about the island. It's telling us a bit about this whole story that's there. It's kind of there, it kind of isn't, you know, it's not what you'd call deep. You know, you haven't got any interesting antagonists here. We don't get much of a depth to the protagonist. To be honest, if anything, the protagonist comes across like a bit of a sociopath, and we'll go into that in a little bit. But we have got stuff like, for example, the notes here, and then we've got things like the crafting system, where you've got stuff like making knives, it's the whole stereotypical crafting shebang. I had a quick go on story mode, and then this is on adventure mode. The only difference I can really tell, I think, is difficulty, because the story's still there. You start in the same place. This is the map we started with. And it's basically the same, but they said you can't craft campfires to start. But that isn't really a problem, because they're just dotted around. It doesn't seem like there's any reason for me to worry about that. But such is life, really. I don't really know how to discuss that. I don't really know what to say apart from that. I'm not sure what the difference is. Again, you know, found something interesting there, but we needed a shovel. So I'm going off here and having a look around. Interesting noise. There wasn't really any origin. There were animals sort of dumped around nonchalantly, but there's, you know, goats, rabbits, I think guinea pigs, dogs. It's always the same dog as well, by the way. It's kind of the dog you saw earlier, like a Rottweiler. It's always a Rottweiler in different colours. There's not really any difference there. I mean, there was a point when I was attacked by a pig, but again, it's very much, it doesn't feel like a world where everything is working. I mean, like there you can just see animals just sort of running around, things just happening, but it doesn't feel like a world that's alive. It feels very much like you've just got a box full of animals turned upside down. Here's another well like the one we're trapped in, can't do anything with that. Got full inventory. Here's another building here. So this is a watchtower that you come across quite early. Again, apologies for the frame ratiness of the game, but for some reason it does seem to chug a little bit. I'm not sure why that is. I mean, I can run much better things than this really, really easily, so it's a bit confusing to me, but such is life. So watchtower here, as you can see, straight away you're thinking the same thing as me. You've probably clocked the boxes. You can eat plants, by the way. Cheats very loudly. You probably clocked the steps and the climb already. There's one of the campfires I was talking about. You know, I didn't need to craft it, it was just there. But as I say, you probably noticed it already. We know straight away it's going to be a climb sort of situation. Now this will kind of highlight the problem I was talking about, really, because if you're having a look as I climb here, I just look straight for the bricks that have white on them, and then for some reason I don't grab them there, and I don't know why that is. There's no sort of press space for a lighter jump kind of thing, it's just standard, and yeah, just completely miss it. So I'm being very careful here, and there's this whole system where she holds her arm out a bit like other things, but then other times she doesn't. So like there, for example, I can't tell if she's going to go forwards or sideways. She can jump sideways, but like I'll show you here as we're about to cross this beam, my head is craned out past where my neck should be. It feels like I should have my head a few centimetres back, which means that all of my jumps are just that little bit mistimed, you know? It doesn't quite feel natural. you always feel as if you're kind of a bit out of place. I mean, even here, I'm just looking for something with white on it. I went for the one behind, but we can't turn that far. She falls here. Now, this is going to bring into this the interaction I was talking about when I said about her being a bit of a sociopath.
What on earth?
Look at these other answers that you can give if you want to. We've just found a guy, terrified, trapped in a basement. The kind of things we can say.
Hey, relax.
We have either
I don't want to hurt
human or lunatic. I don't know who would say those answers, except for comedic purposes. I mean, I don't think this is the time to be cracking jokes. I mean, it's just an absolute ludicrous thing to say, and the problem is that it jerks you straight out. The game has this real tonal shift going on, where sometimes there's a little bit of light comedy,
who are you?
and other times it's this really dark, gritty world full of murder and intrigue. There's no in between.
How did you wind up?
Can't shift tone in such an extreme way so quickly without a little bit of context.
How did you get onto this island?
You haven't set the world up as a humorous world. Nothing to this point has been funny or interactive. There's not been any quips or, it's not been a case of looking around the world. And this is a far cry from something, ironically far cry, something from Borderlands or something like that. There's no wackiness here. It's not a world where I'm expecting to see that.
Inaccessible?
When we're talking about these kind of things, it just feels a bit weird, to be honest. It doesn't feel like again, it just feeds into that whole notion of this world isn't real. It's not a place that I feel could exist. I know that's
his head's been smashed in.
I understand that, but if we're looking at, for example, good example to go back to, Far Cry 3, one of the reasons why I thought Vaas as a bad guy worked was because that juxtaposition is the fact that he could flip on a dime and be this terrifying guy and then be this sort of almost playful guy. It's scary because it's realistic, and elements like that draw you in, whereas with this it just drags you out because, as far as I know, we're not meant to be a sociopath. So next clip we'll see here, same kind of thing again. There's a guy stapled to a tree, there's blood everywhere. First thing, we'll pick up our bits and pieces. Fair enough, interesting. Let's hear what she has to say.
Yeesh. It doesn't look like they brought him out here for a tan.
Yeah.
He's bruised black and blue.
So we've gone straight away. I mean, that's a really grisly image. We've gone straight away from bruised black and blue. Doesn't look like he's brought here for a tan. I mean, and talking about those problems, I'm going to go into a few here. So what you're going to see is you're going to see a few different clips here of different problems in regard to... I think the game needs a bit of polish. So here, we've just gone through a sunflower field, which felt like it went on forever, and we're hiding from this guy. There's a guy there with a scythe walking around, but I've noticed something on top of this pillar to my right, so I'm sort of trying to sneak around him. There is a sneak mechanic cover system, you can hide in trees and things. So I'm thinking I'm going to jump across. Okay, I'll jump across. So I mistime that jump, it goes into a slide. Then this happens. Now, I now can't walk forwards. When I'm pressing the mouse button, I'm looking over my shoulder and I'm crab walking. So at the moment I'm using W to go sideways and all of my controls have inverted, but also I'm stuck in this weird leany shift thing, and you'll hear me going through the keys. I'm basically just going through everything on the keyboard. I don't know if you can hear that. Just trying to find if there's a toggle, if I've done something here, but I haven't. It's just literally locked me into this mode, and I'm just stuck like a crab now. So I live the rest of this video out on the island as a crab, I imagine. But no, I do load another save. I give up because I had one last try and I just moved on because at this point I'd already seen a few bugs, and there are a few, and it does break immersion. I mean, after this we've loaded back in again, same kind of place. I know what I'm after now. You can see that statue, but I'm aware of this problem now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to really take my time. It comes back to that issue again though, really, of the whole reason that happened is because we missed time to jump. But as I climb up, I just clip through the side. Same thing again, I climb up, clip through the side. I'm not central enough to climb on. So there are those little polish problems. Likewise, for example, here we've broken into another building. As you can see, there's not a lot there again. It's very much just a brick building with some stuff in. But as you can see, just basic little things like this, you know, rats hovering, things like that. And that's the thing I'd say about the game, really. I would say at the moment it's pretty reasonably priced on Steam. I mean, you're not paying a lot, and there is some interesting elements here, and it looks like the devs are really active, which, you know, I can do nothing but praise them for that. I've seen that they're doing patches and they are working to fix things like this, but the problem I would say is that you only get one chance to launch. You only get one initial reaction with your fans. So for example, with myself, this is my first and only interaction, and I haven't played another game from your studio, so I don't know what to expect at this point. I don't know if this is going to be something that grows over time. I don't know if this is going to be something that maybe changes later on down the line and shows me sort of an interesting, different experience. But at the moment, you've kind of lost me. I mean, I'll probably carry on playing. I might do a little bit on Twitch at some point just to see how we do and see if anyone else sort of wants to watch that. We'll go through a few more bits and pieces, maybe go through the story. But all in all, I think it needs a lot of polishing, and I think the problem is if you're going to do a free running style parkour system in first person, you have to really nail that feeling of being where your feet are. As silly as that sounds, you have to feel like you're less of a fridge and you're more of a person. At the moment it feels like you're moving a sofa. You're sort of struggling along, there's this weird kind of clipping things issue, and there's also sort of a speed, you can sprint and jump to get a little bit further, and at the moment it just isn't quite there, it doesn't quite work. It's an interesting premise to an extent, but it doesn't feel unique, and the problem is that the things that are a bit different aren't working right now. So I would say maybe the major thing to do is wait for a little while, see how the devs deal with this, see what kind of updates we look at in the future, and just see how the game evolves before investing in it, because I wouldn't want you to have that experience now if a month down the line we've got something far more polished. But anyway, that was Die Young. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Every like, every subscribe really does help out. And if you do want to read some of my articles, you want to see a few bits and pieces that I've got into as well, and a few of my reviews that I've written as well as recorded, then head over to the website. That's www.nextstepnick.com. Anyway, thank you very much for listening and have a lovely day.